Hello, I'm Charlotte. Welcome back to my channel where I have dedicated this space to Bible-based encouragement for women. We're continuing now in our Who is Jesus series, and I want to pick up where I left off in the last video in the 24th chapter of the book of Matthew. So if you have a Bible, get that opened up to Matthew chapter 24. For those of you using an app, just quickly get that open and ready so you can follow along. And I'll be using the King James Version. So what we're looking at now, Jesus is preparing his disciples for when he is not going to be here on earth anymore, but that they know he's going to return. And there's some significant things that he wants to make sure that they know, which are also extremely important and encouraging for us as well today. So in Matthew chapter 24, we're going to read verses 15 to 25. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say unto you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. So some of the significance of what he has just said here is that he is, first of all, referring to something that Daniel the prophet has already prophesied hundreds of years before Jesus came to earth. So I will put that in the description box so that you know where to go in the book of Daniel to understand what is he talking about, the abomination of desolation standing in the temple. And you'll be able to find that in the book of Daniel. But what is also important to see is that Jesus is speaking to his disciples. They're right there with him, and he's telling them these things. But he's also making reference to all of us who would read about this later. Because if you caught the significance, he said, whoso readeth, let him understand. So this would be for anyone that came after the time that Jesus had lived, and that's us. We're here now, and so as people who are reading this word, we need to understand something about what that sign is as an indicator pointing to the end of God's plan for this earth. So we've got that, and then it is also giving us a pretty good indication of how difficult the time will be when that abomination is in the temple, when that Antichrist has set himself up claiming that he is God. It will be an extremely difficult time for anybody that is left on earth, and especially there in Jerusalem. And so Jesus is already telling them what they need to do when that happens. So anybody who is reading or hearing this now, this has not yet happened, but when it does, Jesus has already prepared to tell people, just get out of Jerusalem and don't come back in. And as he says then in verse 25, behold, I have told you before. And that's what I am so thankful about Jesus, because not only did he come to tell us the gospel of the kingdom of his Father so that we can understand who God is and understand what his kingdom is like, but he's also telling us how things are going to be at the end before his return. He is going to come back. He is going to come back to rule here on this earth. And so there are some really important things that people need to know in order to be sure that he is the one that he says he is. So let's continue in verse 26 to verse 31. Behold, if they shall say unto you, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So the thing that people often wonder is, how are we going to know if Jesus has come back? And he wants it to be very clear here that it's going to be so significant that the entire world can see it at the same time. The sign in the sky, just like when lightning flashes, is seen for such a long way. And if people are telling you, oh, well, he's over here in this place, or he's over there in that place, no, you would have known he came. You wouldn't have missed it. Nobody's going to miss it. Everybody is going to see that he comes, and they're going to realize the significance of his return to earth. So we want to take this as a portion of scripture that reminds us that Jesus is preparing his disciples as well as us, because we get to read this, to know how the situation is going to be when he comes back to earth. So I want to thank you again for joining me today. We'll continue. This chapter's long, so I wanted to break it into segments. We'll come back for more next time. Thank you.